Alrighty, you guys, welcome back to a brand new episode here on
The ankle.
Hey Ember.
I hate you like I'm young.
This video is so raw, you guys. Fuck. Fuck me!
That's when I noticed the cold breeze.
The ankle's a little mean.
The ankle, the elbow, the fucking little tiny stick that he probably has is gonna post it. I'm just so fucking done.
So, good day, you guys. I hope everyone's having a beautiful, wonderful afternoon. Or, whenever you're getting to this. Thank you so much for tuning on in. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, like and subscribe. So, for today's video, we're doing something a little different. We're going to be checking out a video from iNabber here. Now, like everyone knows iNabber. Look, 1.1 million subscribers. Everyone knows iNabber. But he does really, really good comprehensive kind of dives into current, past, whatever dramas and controversies involving some of these online characters. And with everything that's going on with Eugenia lately and TikTok lawsuits, this and that, we see it's having an implication on Gore World. So, I figured, hey, we should probably talk about it a bit. And, there's some really, really, Gore World-esque stuff going on, alright? Well, I shouldn't say Gore World, but, Amber-coded, Nova-coded Discord stuff. I don't even know the full extent of it all, so let's get into it, y'all. And, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me once again. And with that, I won't waste any time. Let's dive right on into this. It's a longer video, so we got a decent amount to work through here.
Artificial intelligence is currently one of the biggest talking points in the world right now, particularly generative artificial intelligence. Because whilst AI has always existed since the invention of computers, generative AI is an increasingly improving technology that right now is scaring everybody with what this could possibly lead to.
Chat, I ain't gonna lie, I'm lost as fuck. What does this have to do with Miss Cooney?
As generative AI allows you to, generate images of videos or things that you could not even possibly have thought of only a few years ago. If you go onto social media...
I'm not gonna lie to you, the AI videos of dogs, holding people up at gunpoint, I don't know why. I approve. It's just...
Sites such as Instagram and TikTok right now, you are most likely going to find a Gen AI video within a few swipes.
Oh, there's so many.
And whilst the general public opinion towards Gen AI seems to be overwhelmingly negative, billion-dollar corporations do not care. They are not listening, and they are simply pushing the technology further and further with more investment whilst pushing it into the hands of the public.
Plus, it's also environmentally catastrophic.
In most cases, for free. And that's why I'm here today, to talk to you about this story, about this conversation, which is going to become an increasing conversation over the years.
And this has to do with Eugenia?
Because recently, I stumbled upon something involving generative...
Hold on, sorry. I should say the title of this video. Give me a sec. Hold on, sorry. It's this new Eugenia Cooney situation is absolutely disgusting. So, let's see.
AI, but also influencers. And that brings in today's main topic of conversation, Eugenia Cooney, who is a very controversial figure on the internet. This is an individual that has been talked about for a multitude of years now for so many different reasons. But what I've discovered recently...
Can I be honest? I understand that she inherently perpetuates a negative image. However, I don't know her. Okay? So there's that disclaimer. I also have not consumed that much content about her. She seems nice. Right? I don't know. Maybe there's some tea. Let's learn.
With this new technology developing involving Eugenia Cooney is nothing short of disgusting, and I think it's very important to talk about, because this won't just affect Eugenia, this is going to affect every single influencer, celebrity, even you right now. Everyone will be affected by this technology if we do not talk about this. As yes, today we are going to go through the story of AI deepfakes and how the latest victim to this new developing technology is Eugenia.
Oh. So it's got nothing to do with the lawsuit? Alrighty. While I definitely agree with the conversation that was being had, it's not the conversation we came here to have. So, let me just get the actual one pulled up. And it's also me realizing this is going to be a much longer video. So, buckle in, guys. We got a lot to go over. This one, still iNabber, is a deep dive into Eugenia Cooney's disturbing lawsuit. Let's get into it.
Eugenia Cooney is a YouTuber slash influencer who has been extremely controversial on social media for over a decade now. She has had many controversies, but mainly the main topic of conversation surrounds.
Not to be like grim, but like it's kind of been a race between her and Amber, right?
Her for the last decade has always been Eugenia's health. There have been many debates surrounding Eugenia and the ethical dilemma of her presence on social media alone, with some people arguing that she is a bad influence to children, and some arguing that that should not be her problem, and that parents should do a better job at monitoring their children's social media. But
can it be two things can be true? A little bit of both, I think.
Some overall argue that maybe Eugenia shouldn't be on social media in general.
But I mean, look at like half of the celebrities nowadays. It's not like she's too far off from any of them.
As it is bad for her. But recently, the conversation surrounding how much social media can truly impact and harm somebody has gone even further. Because recently, Eugenia Cooney has been indirectly embroiled in a lawsuit that she is not even involved in, as TikTok is now being ordered to provide documents related to Eugenia Cooney to discover what relationship TikTok, the app, personally has with Eugenia Cooney. And the documents also seek to identify how TikTok responded to a situation where Eugenia appeared to fall ill on a live stream, and this all sources back to an MDL lawsuit.
Now, I did see that clip.
That was established in 2022, known as the Social Media Adolescent Addiction / Personal Injury MDL.
Just to throw a little opinion in on that video of her getting, like, being ill on stream. I mean, if y'all have ever been on an empty stomach and you just are taking in water, just nothing but water, eventually your body's going to reject it. It just happens.
Which has over 400 lawsuits involved.
Jesus fuck. Bro.
And in short, this MDL, which is a multi-district litigation, aims to prove that 1, social media platforms like TikTok are knowingly encouraging excessive use to push social media addiction.
I didn't know that it was this big. I mean, I knew it was big, but like, holy fuck.
2, features like endless scrolling, algorithmic-based feeds, and endless notifications contribute to severe mental health-related issues. And 3, that...
Call me crazy. Is that not on the user to, like, monitor that shit?
Social media companies have failed to address these issues by not providing adequate safeguards. And yes, Eugenia Cooney is currently at the center point of this lawsuit. With a large amount of lawsuits ongoing right now, you are probably wondering, well, where is this all coming from? Well, its sources
There's a part 2 to this also, so this is going to be ongoing.
from local governments, school districts, and affected family whose children have supposedly been very affected by social media in a negative way. And now these individuals have grouped together with teams of lawyers as a way to try and fight back against the social media companies. And Eugenia is the center point of how they can prove their arguments right now.
I don't know how much ground they got to stand on that one, dog, to be honest with you.
And if they win this case, it could lead to financial compensation to the families, but in the bigger scope of things, it could lead to massive, major changes in how these apps operate, i.e., government regulation.
Oh, God.
Yes, that was a lot of words to get through. I kind of felt that we needed to get through the important details right at the beginning of this video.
I mean, I could see, like, where this would obviously be a good thing. Obviously. But at the same time, it's like, oh, God, that's such a slippery slope. Especially, like, no offense, the government we got right now.
Because yes, today we are going to be going through this lawsuit from pretty much start to finish. I want to go through this, reading every single part of the document to truly understand why Eugenia is being involved in this and what it really could lead to, and overall establish the fact that this lawsuit really could change social media massively.
I mean, we've already seen a change up. And the lawsuit hasn't even gone through. I don't even think they've gone into, like, litigation on anything. And we have already seen YouTube cracking down.
I want this video
I don't know about other apps.
to kind of
We really only pay attention to YouTube. Sorry, I didn't mean to click it there. So, who knows? But YouTube definitely has.
be about two different things. Of course, I want it to be a conversation once again surrounding Eugenia Cooney and the concerns that we have for her, but I also want it to be a conversation surrounding social media regulation. Because in an increasingly more digitalized world, social media regulation is becoming a bigger topic of conversation as the days go by. And
This is true.
look, this is a very sensitive topic, and I'm going to start it off by stating I don't trust the American government. I don't. And I think that's a pretty
fair
thing to say, given where we are currently in the world and how every single day it just seems there's a new mess coming from the US government.
Listen, I laugh so I don't cry.
Absolutely do not trust the government. So having some form of government regulation come into social media is obviously something that I'm going to be very skeptical of. But
well, hey, listen. It's already happening here. Already. I mean, there was a huge algorithm shift when Twitter went down and then came back again. Like, not Twitter, sorry, TikTok. Like, nah, I started getting so much right-wing stuff, and I don't comment on it. I don't interact with it. Like, it should not be popping up, and yet it still does, and it's just like, and we're even not seeing certain news stories too. I had to watch a news coverage out of South Korea, I believe it was, about Minnesota the other night, because U.S. news is not reporting on it. Like, it's already there.
I should say this lawsuit isn't a case of where the government is fighting against TikTok. No, the government aren't involved. This is a federal court case, but this isn't the government versus TikTok. But the reason I'm speaking about social media regulation and the government is because usually cases like this that are so massive.
Plus, like, be so for real. If it goes into the hands of the current administration, if it infringes on anyone's dollar, then No.
will be cited in cases of where the government tried to push forms of regulation. We've seen it in the past in terms of tobacco, but I feel like this is a far
Throwback.
more serious case because social media now is pretty much the main form of freedom of speech that everybody has. It's the way we learn about pretty much everything that's going on in the world, and I am very worried that these court cases here are going to be used to push regulation in the future. Because with a lot of
Yeah, because the way this was described to me initially was not like this. The implications of this were not explained. So, I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with it. And I even said with Foodie and Amber, like, it did certainly feel targeted almost. Like, all of the big creators got demonetized. That's messy. That is messy. I mean,
regulation that we've seen in other countries, such as the United Kingdom, it always comes under the premise of think about the children. And hey, at
yeah, it's always the argument.
face value, that makes sense. And the same can be applied for all of the sensitive reasons that we speak about Eugenia Cooney. Like, we all know the situation and story with Eugenia is incredibly sensitive, and it's something that is constantly changing every single day, but I don't want that to be used as a way for governments in the future to push regulation and have more control over social media themselves. It's very
No, I agree. Very
easy to see something bad and think
Fraser gets a bit political. Go to 947 if you want to. Well, we're here. So, sorry guys. Gonna be the one for today.
oh yes, I want my government to ban this thing, I want my government to do this and do that and do this, and it's very easy to see the idea of an Online Safety Act, which is currently a big topic of
The Online Safety Act is a threat to the privacy of users, restricts free expression of arbitrating speech online, exposes users to algorithmic discrimination through face checks, and leaves millions of people without a personal device or form of ID excluded from accessing the internet. Oh no, that's scary. That's scary. What the fuck?
Conversation in the UK right now and think, well, a safety act makes sense. We should protect our children. And I actually agree. We should protect.
Why is that not the parents' job? What the fuck?
Children, but there's a lot of problems.
Am I crazy for thinking that? The Online Safety Act 2023 is an act of the Parliament of the United Kingdom to regulate online content. It was passed on 26th of October 2023 and gives the relevant Secretary of State the power to designate, suppress, and record a wide range of online content that the United Kingdom deems illegal or harmful to children. Listen, at face value, fine and dandy, but that's such a subjective thing, you know, where it can very easily become a slippery slope. And I mean, we saw it with 9/11. We allow governments to come in under the guise of like safety to essentially broaden their control. And it might not be used in that moment, but it's laid in place so that it can be at some point.
With Online Safety Acts. These acts get implemented under the idea of unprecedented
What the act does, the act delivers unprecedented
protection for child safety online. Sounds like a good idea at first.
Right.
Until you then realize, oh, posts about Palestine and Ukraine are now being censored in the UK due to this new Online Safety Act. Which is really weird because this act designed to supposedly protect children is now censoring us from seeing actual news and information
that affects children.
About children around the world being brutally murdered by tyrannical regimes. It seems a little bit ironic, and it does start to point the finger at these Online Safety Acts and make you think this isn't just about protecting the children, and it really does point to the governments of, do you even care about the things you're saying to push these acts into law? And look,
Listen, he said that until the 9 whatever minute mark, it's going to be getting a little political. So we'll be getting back into it. Don't lose faith, guys.
Not a political channel. I rarely speak about politics on this channel. I'm very open about my politics, especially if you follow my TikTok and Instagram. But I think these are incredibly important conversations with what we're going to go into today. Because whilst this lawsuit is not pushing regulation, I can guarantee you in the future, these types of lawsuits will be cited in further regulation pushes against social media.
1,000%.
My personal stance is I'm not for regulation. I don't want the US government to be in control of TikTok, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I feel sick for calling it X. Facebook. I'm not for them being able to have a ban hammer where they control what they think is right or wrong on social media, because they may say, oh yeah, this very obvious thing about protecting, all the topics to do with what Eugenia Cooney's been involved in over the years, that should be banned. But then if they have the ban hammer, what if they want to ban other things? And I've kind of been against this argument in the past. I have actually previously been for some form of regulation, but just given the current US government and even the government before that, and the UK government, I'm not comfortable with it. So I just want to kind of establish my serious stance on this. I do think that social media companies like TikTok, X, YouTube, and everyone else should be heavily looked at and challenged by these court cases. And actually, that's why I think this court case could lead to some good, because with TikTok or YouTube being sued for billions of dollars, I think that could give them a kick up the ass to do more regulation on their own platform.
That is true.
Self-police what's on their own platform, because yes, I will admit, I'm one of the biggest talkers of this anyway. These social media companies don't do enough, in particular TikTok. I actually think YouTube...
Yeah, very true. I was just talking about this the other night, or was in one of the videos that's coming out today, of like dudes fucking wanking it on TikTok live. Like, what the fuck? How is that just like breezing on through someone's For You page?
So I'm not just saying it because I'm a YouTuber, but I think they've done a lot more. But TikTok, they are one of the worst platforms when it comes to actually doing anything about regulating what's on their own platform. So no, I'm not shocked that people want regulation.
Which is crazy, because they are like so gun-ho sometimes, and then other times it's like, oh yeah, whatever.
But I should just say, be skeptical and maybe be at a bit of an arm's length when it comes to these things. But yes, sorry, I am going to put a timestamp there, because I know you're not all here for politics. You're not all here for my political opinions. But I feel like this is more than just politics. I think this is like an ethical issue, given where the world is currently at. And given that right now, pretty much social media is the only way to get forms like information that isn't biased, information that does tell truth. For example, I don't think we would know as half as we do about Palestine if we didn't have social media.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. There's so much that we wouldn't know. We would still be under the thumb of all government regulated media. Like, nah.
If it was in a world where there wasn't Twitter or TikTok or YouTube, I think we'd know so little, and those situations would be... they're already absolutely awful, don't get me wrong.
I mean, yeah, they're hellscapes, but they do still allow people to see a lot more than we would.
But I think it would be even worse, because there would be a lack of protest due to people not really knowing what's going on. Because, for example, in the early 2010s or the 2000s, I didn't know about what was going on in Palestine. I had no idea. Even in 2014, with the invasion of Crimea, we're going so political here, but even in the invasion of Crimea, I didn't know about that.
No, I knew about Crimea, what? Sorry. I knew about that because that had to... It was like related with, was it in Crimea, I believe, where they were locking up gay men and putting them basically in concentration camps.
Because I was barely on social media. So that's why I'm very standoffish here. The timestamp will be here. We're now going to get into what we're meant to be talking about today. Yeah, political rant over. So yes, actually...
Okay, period.
Getting into the topic of today, Law 360, which is a website that speaks about law, posted an article recently titled TikTok Must Produce Documents on Influencer Who is Eugenia Cooney.
What's the word? Is it the Anna word?
And by the way, there was a redacted word in that title. I should just say I'm not going to go into details on the certain health issues that Eugenia deals with.
Yeah.
This video, I will fleetingly go by them, but recently I made a video about Eugenia and basically I got age restricted. Nobody could watch it unless you had a signed in ID verified account. I don't want to deal with that. I spoke about it in previous videos. This is a much more serious law related video, so I'm just going to try and avoid things. Please don't get mad at me. But yes, it states...
Yeah, to be honest, when it comes to Eugenia, I don't really care of having the conversation about her health. I don't. Like... It's pretty similar to Amber. It just fucking is what it is. And at least with Eugenia, she doesn't come on talking about it. You know, Amber fucking is all she got.
A California federal judge on Monday ordered TikTok to produce documents related to Eugenia Cooney, an influencer with a certain condition and 2.8 million followers, in litigation over claims social media hurts youth mental health, and also they instructed YouTube to yield documents on 2 of its witnesses. U.S. District Judge Peter Kang told TikTok to look for and produce any documents about Cooney's May visit to its New York offices, as in the TikTok offices, and her collapse during a live stream. It's plausible that TikTok investigated whether the live stream was problematic or if it had an effect on the young user's safety, the judge said. There was social media coverage of her collapse, so TikTok might have received media requests or possible government inquiries about the event, the judge said. And TikTok might have sent communications to staff and outside vendors, like a public relations firm, about how and if to discuss Cooney's fainting episode. Additionally,
they're specifically just talking about that. Holy Christ. Whoa.
It is unknown, but at least conceivable, that TikTok may have received user complaints in response to Cooney's TikTok livestream in May of 2025 with regard to an adverse effect on youth users' safety, the judge said. And in short, if you don't know what's really being said here, this is a very brief summary of everything that took place in a court case between TikTok and the people that I mentioned earlier that have grouped together to try and sue the social media companies. And now they're basically trying to bring Eugenia Cooney into their lawsuit by stating that, well, there was a really bad thing that happened on a Eugenia Cooney live stream.
Can I be honest? I think there's way worse stuff being shown on TikTok. Like I said, sexual content that should be focused on. Yeah, sure, yeah, wrap this up in it too, I guess, but like, this is the example you're reaching for? Okay, interesting. I do know that there are Discord things and whatnot. However, I don't know if it's in this part that he talks about that. So, yeah.
And then Eugenia went to the TikTok offices, whether it was before or after. It was at least at a very close period to when the stream incident happened. And because of that, they think there's some negligence that's going on here. They think that TikTok are responsible for what's happened to Eugenia. And again,
my guy, I think you have a bit of a case, just maybe not here, really. I'm a little baffled by it.
For reference, what happened was pretty much Eugenia seemed to fall ill on a live stream. I'm not going to go into detail due to what I mentioned earlier, but it was a very serious event. A lot of influencers talked about it, including myself. I've forgotten about the names of other YouTubers, but yeah, basically a lot of commentary people spoke about it. A lot of TikTokers spoke about it. It was a viral story. Jeffree Star was talking about it, even though he is Satan himself. I don't care about that man's opinion. He spoke about it. But yeah, it was very popular topic, and I struggle to think that TikTok did not see it. It was
oh no, they definitely did. Definitely.
Very big thing. But the article states that, yeah, around where the event took place, Eugenia was invited to their offices. Which is a bit concerning and also a bit confusing, considering how controversial Eugenia Cooney has been on social media for...
I mean, there's been photos of her out and about at freaking Disneyland still, so... Girl still gets out.
well, over a decade now. For example, Twitch in 2022 banned her
God, she
outright.
looks so different.
And there's even been conversation surrounding the fact that she may be fully demonetized completely on YouTube. So TikTok inviting her to their offices doesn't really make much sense in my personal opinion, just related to PR reasons. Because when it comes to YouTube and TikTok working with content creators, they usually just take a handful of very nice and PR-friendly content creators. I think I have a manager at YouTube. I'm really bad at replying to their emails, so maybe I'm in that category, even though I never get invited to any events whatsoever. Hey, if you're somebody in charge of event management and you want to invite me to movie premieres, please contact my business email. I'll go to any. I don't care if it's a bad horror movie. I don't care what. This is not the time to do it. Basically, it doesn't really make much sense that they invited her to their offices, but they did. But continuing on.
Oh. Okay, I was a little on the fence there. Did she or didn't she?
The document states that TikTok had balked at the discovery requests for information about Cooney. The plaintiff said that in the social media company's words, Cooney is a controversial influencer who is widely known in the community that I cannot name for having a certain health condition. TikTok still brought her into its inner circle and promoted her at branded events. Which again, as I just said, is a very confusing thing. I don't really know I don't know if TikTok's managers are just like not good when it comes to the PR thing, but
I don't think they care. I don't think they care. Like, yeah, she's controversial, but views is money. Oh my god. Poor girl.
I feel like Eugenia Cooney is a weird influencer to invite to an event. I don't know if it was like an open door thing of where any influencer could come to it, but based on my research,
I don't know. TikTok seems to really just function based off numeric things. So if you're pulling the views and all that, I guess.
It does seem that she was just outright invited with a bunch of other content creators to an event in New York in May of 2025. I mean, for example, imagine if YouTube random...
Ariana, what are you doing here?
We invited Amber and Reed to YouTube HQ in Los Angeles.
Girl. They'd have to build a headquarters out in fucking Oklahoma City.
It would be such a weird event. I kind of want it to happen now, but it would be such a weird thing. I just think, honestly...
Could you imagine her in a room of other influencers?
Kind of love it, because at least I'd get a YouTube video out of it. But yeah, it goes on to say the discovery dispute arises from personal injury litigation launched in 2022 against social media...
Oh, it's been going back that far? Damn.
Companies Snapchat, Meta, TikTok, and YouTube. I hear there's influencers on Snapchat. Scary.
I get occasional like notifications for random ass people, and I'm just like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
All I'm saying is scary. I mean,
they do. They have TikTok store or Snapchat stories, not like your personal stories, but like news stories, shit like that. I mean, it's whatever. They got Snapchat premiums and shit. Snapchats you pay for. Like, what the fuck?
God knows the crimes they've committed on that. Sorry. The case has been consolidated.
No. True talk. True talk. Snapchat's files are way worse than Kik's ever were.
An MDL that involves hundreds of claims by parents of minors, school districts, and dozens of states that allege the defendant's platforms, which brings in billions of dollars each year in ad revenue.
Fuck, really? No. Really?
Are designed to be addictive to the detriment of young people's mental health and livelihood. And hey, I actually don't disagree with that whatsoever. I think social media is absolutely designed to be addictive, and I think that is something that should be questioned. I'm not somebody that wants government
I'm here for that.
to control what is said on social media and what can be posted about, but I'm definitely in favor of governments looking into the social media's algorithms and how truly predatory they are. I think...
Well, the issue there is then our administration will learn from that algorithm and start using it.
That's the big problem I have when it comes to regulation. Because to me personally, when I hear we're going to outright ban this section of the internet, to me that's just a very nasty precedent that can go down a very slippery slope. I personally think the best thing governments could do is take a look at these predatory algorithmic practices that these social media companies are taking out and see how they are deliberately designed to be addictive and actually
I hear that.
take action on that. I have no issue with that whatsoever because it isn't monitoring what is posted on social media, and I think that is fine. I think the monitoring should be down to the social media companies themselves,
Correct.
and if they fail at that, then yes, they should be punished and they should face lots and lots of lawsuits where they pay billions of dollars in compensation, because that will kick them up the ass into actually doing something about it. Because all these,
I mean, TikTok or YouTube isn't even involved in this, I don't believe, and they've already begun. So,
really billionaires only really care about,
although Eugenia's been off of YouTube for a while, right? Demonetized at least, I believe. So, this probably started back around that time.
is their money, is their pocket, and how much their profits are going up that year. So the best way to get them to do anything is to target their profits.
Well, the thing is, also, you gotta remember, YouTube makes way more off of the ad revenues and everything than the actual influencer does. So if an influencer is pulling in millions a year, billions, I don't know if that's accurate, but a lot. Eugenia definitely was pulling in millions. Like, that's, they're getting a hefty paycheck off it too.
I mean, an example of what I'm talking about here with these predatory practices is in 2012, a study was done that showed that internet addiction can alter your brain in the same way some Class A drugs can.
Jesus. God damn.
And this was before TikTok and Instagram Reels. This was 2012. Think about how much bigger and more addictive social media is now. So yeah, if governments want to take a look into that, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But unfortunately, I don't believe...
I mean, kind of low-key. Have you ever met a kid that was, like, raised on social media? Little tweakers.
governments care about these things, and I actually just think that they are only really ever talking about wanting digital protection so they can really monitor what people are saying rather than actually protecting anyone. And I think what kind of annoys me about these conversations,
right, it just extends their reach, and yeah, it's a slippery slope.
Is that this can lead to a lot of conspiratorial rabbit holes. I'm not trying to do that whatsoever. I think
meanwhile, the Charlie Day. That's all I ever think of when I see red string across a pin board. It's just Charlie Day and Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
it's very fair to question how much control governments have over social media, considering social media is pretty much our main form of freedom of speech. Well, at least the main place we can implement our freedom of speech. But yeah, continuing on with the article,
That is true.
It's in a separate order on Monday. Judge Kang told TikTok and YouTube to produce documents concerning two witnesses. One, Samantha Kasul, was TikTok's witness for certain topics in suits brought by school districts, according to the other. YouTube witness Tom Saffel was deposed on age verification topics. There wasn't any serious dispute about whether some relevant documents are in the witness's custodial files, but whether the plaintiff's request for a full search was merited, according to the order. In order to have a fair opportunity to cross-examine these witnesses, the scope of the documents to be searched and produced should be appropriately limited to the scope of the topics which define the scope of their testimony, a judge said. Judge Kang exhorted the parties to work together on the document search terms and production logistics. This court has repeatedly admonished throughout this MDL that wise and experienced counsel know how to work through and reach reasonable compromises on document production issues, and the court continues to hold counsel and adhere to those same standards, the judge said. Plaintiffs look forward to receiving the documents that TikTok and YouTube have been ordered to produce.
Oh, so YouTube is involved in it. Oh, damn. Okay.
Along with the additional materials about...
So, yeah, no wonder they're cracking down.
TikTok's relationship with influencer Eugenia Cooney. So, yeah.
And actually, wasn't it around 2022 when Amber started getting slapped with some kind of like... She started having some videos taken down. And I think
YouTube have to produce some documents, TikTok have to produce some documents. That was pretty much what came out of this part of the court case. Now, this is all
I mean, fair, she's always having videos taken down.
very brief summary of the document that we're now going to go through, but I'm not going to focus on the YouTube aspect of this, not because they're my job. I'm very critical of YouTube too, but I mainly want to focus on the TikTok one because the influencer aspect of it really interests me, especially with it being centered around Eugenia Cooney, because, well, I cover a lot of influencer situations, and I think it's very interesting and unique to see these types of court cases now involve actual influencers and their individual experiences, and using them experiences as a way to argue that these social media companies are not protecting people in the online space. Because
Again, I understand the argument, but I think going after Eugenia Cooney is a little off target.
to state that transparency is key. TikTok and other social media companies should not be allowed to hide the ball at trial. The public deserves to know these platforms promote influencers whose content may harm young people and what steps, if any, they took to protect their users. And then it says representatives for YouTube and TikTok did not respond to requests for comment on Monday.
Of course not.
And yeah, I do completely agree that these social media companies are not doing enough. And there is a bit of an ethical dilemma when it comes to Eugenia Cooney, because some people do state that, well, her content is incredibly influenceable. People will follow what she's doing and people will put themselves in dangerous positions. And honestly, I do agree with that. And the same can be applied for a lot of other content creators out there too who are in familiar situations. I think that this is something that does need to be discussed.
Ember.
But I don't want government regulation to come in. And again, I know that's not what this lawsuit is.
It gets so messy so quick.
It does concern me. With such a massive lawsuit, this is no doubt, if the lawyers who are going against TikTok and YouTube get their way, it is going to change social media.
Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this? Dun dun dun.
Will be monumental. Because previously these tech companies have been unmoderated. They've been allowed to get away with everything they're doing. And pretty much social media has been this place of where
I think Facebook should be looked at too, if we're being honest.
you can do what you want, but now it's increasingly getting to the point of where they're going to be forced into stopping that type of how social media has been for pretty much decades now from happening, and
It's the Wild Wild West.
will become a lot more regulated, whether that's government regulation or these companies actually being forced into doing something. And I want the latter. I want these companies to do something because I do think that there is a worrying case of where people can post, like, it's kind of confusing. I don't want to say post what they want. I want people to be able to post what they want, but there are a lot of worrying situations on social media, and I want these companies to actually do something about it and monitor their platforms far more. And an example of this in the past is YouTube were facing a lot of criticism because a lot of predatory people were existing in comment sections on videos designed for children.
If they're in the comment sections, then that means they're watching the video. So is the comments really, I mean, yeah, it ends the discussion of it, but like, if you're noticing the predatory people watching the video, yeah.
And YouTube implemented a lot of steps, such as banning comment sections on those videos, which prevented these predatory people from getting what they want. And I think that was a good step. It was a stage to moderation that YouTube implemented themselves, and it wasn't government regulation. And it all came from the fact that advertisers left YouTube. Their pocket was targeted, and
That's always going to be the case. Always. We have to think about it in terms, well, we don't have to, but the way that YouTube or any of these platforms will ever approach something is when it affects their income.
Force them into doing something. So yeah, I do think these types of lawsuits can actually lead to good. But yes, now we need to actually move into the lawsuit. You kind of have an understanding of what's going on here, that yes, the judge did actually call for TikTok and YouTube to do something. But as you're going to discover as we go through this court case, it's not all at sun.
Wasn't it through Discovery, I believe, that like all the Discord stuff came up? Because there is, like, I know there's a lot much deeper, darker stuff rooted with the Eugenia Cooney thing. I think maybe this is just, like, the surface level of it. It gets darker.
Shine and daisies. And in fact, it does kind of seem that TikTok in particular and YouTube, they very much got off cleanly in this situation. Because as much as I'm against regulation and I'm kind of concerned about where this will all go in the future, I actually definitely think the lawyers in this case against TikTok have a very, very strong case. But weirdly, the judge doesn't really seem to agree. So the document.
Can I be honest? Yeah. I mean, I imagine it's going to go relatively the same as when TikTok had to come in front of Congress or whatever and try to explain to them how an algorithm works. I mean, come on, dude. Could we get a young judge? Maybe. Not to be, like, I'm not trying to be ageist, but get someone that knows about social media.
It starts off with all the regular stuff, such as the headings of United States District Court, Northern District of California, San Francisco Division, in RE, social media, adolescent addiction, personal injury products liability, litigation, order resolving dispute, RE plaintiffs, motion to compel discovery from TikTok, RE, third party, Eugenia Cooney. Now, I want to
That's crazy.
set the record straight immediately. This isn't a lawsuit against Eugenia Cooney. This isn't people trying
She's just an example.
to sue Eugenia. She's not even directly involved in this lawsuit. And in fact, what's actually going on in this document is the judge overall going over a request from the lawyers of where they want Eugenia involved in this case. They pretty much want to get Eugenia involved in a court case where they ask questions of where she actually is sat in a courtroom, and they want to go over her entire experience and more documents to basically prove their point that social media is dangerous and these companies are not doing enough. But also, as we went through in the summary, they want documents related to the live stream incident in May of 2025 and to Eugenia coming to the New York offices, but also plenty of other documents surrounding Eugenia and the complaints that TikTok received about her, and plenty of other things. This case has been going on for a while now, and actually you're going to discover that Eugenia has come up previously, but this incident in May has kind of sparked up this new thing of where the judge is now going to review whether he will allow more documents and more discovery in this case. MDL has been referred to the undersigned for all discovery purposes. Plaintiffs and TikTok defendants filed a joint letter brief seeking resolution of a dispute regarding additional discovery sought by plaintiffs from TikTok regarding third-party Eugenia Cooney. Upon careful review of the briefing and submissions, the court resolves the disputes as to the additional discovery sought from TikTok as set forth herein. The court finds the dispute suitable for resolution without oral arguments. Basically, what this is establishing is that the judge is basically in charge of gathering all the information here, and that the people who are trying to sue TikTok are basically stating, we want all these additional documents to do with Eugenia, and pretty much TikTok are like, we don't think we should have to do that. We've provided enough information, and they don't want to do it because of that. And that's kind of what this whole thing's going to come down to, where TikTok are being very adamant against the fact they don't want to provide any new documentation involving Eugenia. They'll argue that there's no point to it. They've already provided.
It seemed like they're protecting her a bit since they've partnered with her.
Information in February of 2025, which you will go on to see. But the argument against that is, no, these documents are very, very important and we need them. But in getting into the legal standard, it's just multiple pages of basically explaining the general rules for handling evidence requests in this case. Basically, the court gets to decide what information each side has to share, and they can say if it's too much information or just not useful or outright unfair. Which you're going to find out the unfair part is very essential here, because Eugenia Cooney is technically she is a third party in this court case because she was not originally involved. She has not been to any of the hearings or anything like that, and now they're trying to get her involved, and that could be deemed as unfair. But moving past the legal jargon and actually going into discussion, it states this: the parties' fundamental dispute concerns 1. Whether TikTok should be required to produce additional documents relating to a non-party, Eugenia Cooney, whether plaintiffs plaintiffs should be granted leave to take an additional deposition of a specified TikTok witness previously deposed in February 2025, and whether plaintiffs should be granted leave to take the deposition to Eugenia Cooney. So basically, yeah, that's what I said earlier, of they want to get more people involved. They want to go back to somebody they already spoke to in February who has already been disposed, and now they want to get Eugenia involved in a disposition. They
Sounds a little messy, not gonna lie.
want her to speak up and give her side of the story. And on top of that, they also want new documentation sent over by TikTok themselves. It's honestly quite a lot to request. And when I've looked at this quite a few times now, this document, I've done a lot of research into it, spoken to some of my lawyer buddies, and it does kind of seem like a very ballsy request to ask of a billion-dollar corporation like TikTok. It goes on to state that as the party's briefing and the public record discloses, Cooney is a TikTok influencer or creator who routinely posts on TikTok and has 2.8 million followers. Cooney is a TikTok creator suffering from redacted, and according to plaintiffs, her photographs and postings indicate that she is suffering from an obvious serious health condition. During the fact discovery period, TikTok actually produced over 300 documents referencing Eugenia Cooney, its relationship with her, and user complaints about her. TikTok's relationship with Cooney was a topic during the deposition of a TikTok witness taken in February of 2025. So yeah,
that's a lot.
So this is obviously going to come into some legal complications here, because to the average person like myself, when new information comes up in a court case, you would automatically assume, oh, well, that information should be able to be used as evidence, but no, that's actually not how law works, apparently. When there is discovery, that whole thing happens, and then you move on to the next section of the lawsuit. But it's very rare well, not very rare, but it is a difficult case of when something new comes up, it is not allowed to necessarily be thrown straight into the lawsuit. And that's why we've got this request here, because the incident that happened in May of 2025 came after February of 2025, when they discussed Eugenia Cooney, as we just read. And now they want more information to come in, and that's what this is pretty much all about. And
gotcha.
TikTok do not want that. And to me, that makes sense, because obviously a very serious thing took place on Eugenia's live stream, and it very much does actually make TikTok look bad and prove a lot of the things that the lawyers against them are saying. Continuing on.
Gotcha. Okay. He does such a good job, you guys, right?
It states, number 1, request for documents from TikTok Ari Cooney. After the close of fact discovery, Cooney apparently fell ill during a live stream broadcast on TikTok on May 23rd, 2025. Cooney also apparently visited TikTok's office in New York around the same date. After learning of these events, plaintiffs requested TikTok to produce supplemental documents concerning Cooney. The parties did not reach agreement on this issue, resulting in the instant letter briefing. In the instant brief, plaintiffs seek an order requiring TikTok to produce 2 broadly phased categories of documents concerning Cooney, comprising multiple subparts. Number 1, new documents / communications discussing TikTok's relationship with Miss Cooney, communications between TikTok and Miss Cooney, internal communications about Miss Cooney, any communication with the third-party organizations, including the National Alliance for Certain Health Conditions, about Miss Cooney, contracts or agreements between TikTok and Miss Cooney, communications or documents related to Miss Cooney's visit to New York City HQ or other office, and advertising / marketing or other promotional material related to Miss Cooney. Number 2, new documents / communications discussing user concerns related to Cooney, user feedback or complaints about Mrs. Cooney's relationship to the TikTok platform, user feedback or complaints about Miss Cooney's health, international communications, analysis, investigations, and decisions related to those complaints, communications, analysis, and investigations that went into decisions to block users from searching for Miss Cooney's profile, instead using a message directing users to the National Alliance for a Certain Health Condition, and communications, analysis, and investigations that went into the decision to reverse the block on users searching for Miss Cooney's profile.
Lord.
That was a lot of words. Basically, they're stating every single thing here that they want from TikTok. They pretty much want everything to do with Eugenia, and I completely understand it. The incident...
And the thing is, I do see how, like, it's not inherently specifically about Eugenia, but she's just the one that they are kind of honing in on. Like, It's kind of crazy because it's all about her, but in the grand scheme, it kind of isn't.
That took place on the live stream was incredibly serious, and it very much does bolster pretty much every 400 lawsuits that they have currently going on.
Are we thinking about the same one where she just got a little sick drinking the water? That's the one we're talking about? Or is it something else? Listen, like I said, I don't be keeping up with Eugenia all that much. The most I ever did was when Jordy covered her.
And it very much proves that TikTok are not doing enough. Another content creator that I can
Oh, God.
refer to here is actually Alphaba. This is a content creator who is known for doing insanely, just a lot of things on her live streams, a lot of dangerous things that a lot of young viewers have been exposed to, and I find it very despicable that TikTok have really not done anything about it or issued any new rules or regulations or monitoring, and Alphaba to this day is doing the exact same stuff that she was doing years and years ago that originally got her in controversy. So
You were using some older videos there, my guy, okay? Use some newer ones. That's rough.
me, it indicates that they don't really care about their content creators, and they don't really care about the people that watch these videos or live streams, and they just want to make money. So yeah, I completely understand why these lawyers want these documents. It could change everything. But yeah, let's continue with the reading. There's a lot of reading.
Right, proving that they knew, they were aware of the concerns, but they kept up a partnership and the business going anyways.
If you hear me laugh, it's just because I'm like going through constant repeated legal jargon. That's what I find really funny.
Yeah, this is going to be a heavy video, you guys.
About law.
Lawyer Lynn coming into the chat.
It's just the amount of repeated words because they've got to be so specific, and it kind of drives you insane after reading it a million times. So yeah, carrying on, it says plaintiffs argue that these supplemental productions are required under Rule 26 because these requested documents are responsive to multiple document request numbers. Plaintiffs argue that these new events involved with Cooney and TikTok are relevant to TikTok's knowledge of the mental health harms caused by its platform. And yeah, it's hard to look past based on
I mean, they definitely know. They definitely know.
Eugenia, Alphaba, and every other TikToker out there that you can think of that's had a breakdown or serious incident happen to them on live
Chelsea Lee Arts.
stream or video. It's really, really hard to look past TikTok in particular when it comes to them not doing enough to protect their users. For example, the National Institute of Health reports that frequent use of TikTok was closely linked to the increase of symptoms of anxiety and depression, especially in users aged under 24 years old. And
well, I mean, it makes sense. It literally, like, and especially when times get tumultuous, you know, like, it's just a constant feed of negativity mixed in with some, like, you know, emotional stuff or comedy here or there, but it's a lot of the time really just heavy shit.
yeah, I have no doubts in my mind that certain communities and the algorithm on TikTok has absolutely contributed to a decline in some people's mental health.
I think we could even say the same goes towards Amber.
Yet at the same time, a big thing that I find frustration in when it comes to governments is they love to point the finger at social media every single time, being like,
True.
This is why kids are depressed. This is why young adults and teenagers are depressed. But then they never really address issues such as economical issues.
Yeah, that's the thing. Social media, I think, is just a mirror. So it holds a mirror up to people and also is a window and allows people to see things that they normally wouldn't. Should there be regulation in that? Maybe, but at the same time, it's also so beneficial.
We're currently going through a 5-year-long cost of living crisis. Buying a house now is basically impossible.
Yeah.
The events of 2020 happened, and a million other things have happened since. And you start to think, oh, maybe it's not just TikTok making people depressed. Now, I'm not excusing TikTok here, but I'm also stating that the statistic that I just showed you, whilst I think there is some truth in it, I also think that we still need to be a bit standoffish. Because I think painting a broad stroke of social media as bad and it's causing you to be depressed is not necessarily the fairest and genuine way to go about a conversation of protecting online users. And
True. No, I agree with that. I've said before, social media is what you make of it.
And mental health. You need to look at everything. You need to look at what's going on in people's lives, their quality of living, and how their just day to day is. Why are they in these communities on TikTok? Is it because TikTok is addicting? Sure, partly it is. But at the same time, there are also other issues. Kids nowadays are being priced out of youth centers, hobbies, and everything in general, the things that make them happy and keep them occupied. Sports centers, just hobbies for children. The lack of funding put into these areas in the modern day is
and there's no real areas anymore where you can just go and be. Everything costs nowadays.
Absolutely insane. So you have to think these kids aren't occupied due to the economic status of where they currently are at in their life. So naturally, they are going to go to these addictive apps, and it is going to make their brains slightly melt. So I think we need to, whilst we focus on these issues, that's very important, we need to focus on all of the issues at the same time. But I just feel like, especially with a lot of governments in the world right now, they're trying to point the finger at social media and social media only. And to me, that just seems very, very disingenuous. And whilst I think the company should take a lot, if not most, of the backlash, I think a lot of parents need to do more when it comes to protecting their children on social media. You should be aware of what your kid is going through on social media. You should be monitoring what they are looking at, and you shouldn't just give them free reign if they're below the ages of 18 or 16, whatever. If they're a young kid, they should not be going to some of the communities that Eugenia Cooney may be related to on social media. And parents should do more, as should the companies as well. And yeah, let's end the rant there.
No, I agree. And it's also, it leads to people talking in the comments about Eugenia, her condition and everything. And that in turn making younger people go and look into those things, and potentially not from a very healthy minded source.
Now, the judge goes into TikTok's argument where he states, now TikTok goes on to argue that none of these document requests call for documents now sought. TikTok further argues that plaintiffs and TikTok negotiated agreements to narrow the scope of these agreements last year, which included limiting production to certain agreed upon custodians and using agreed upon search terms. Further, TikTok argues that plaintiffs are explicitly asking for an order requiring TikTok to reproduce documents that TikTok has already produced, specifically relating to certain restrictions and changes made to Cooney's account and its accessibility. TikTok argues that plaintiffs have known of Cooney since at least February 2025's disposition of the TikTok witness discussed above. TikTok argues that there were past creator events at TikTok's offices in 2024, similar to the event in May of 2025, which Cooney attended, and plaintiffs never saw documents concerning Cooney's participations in those events in 2024. Further, TikTok points out that plaintiffs served completely different sets of document requests, which directly sought documents concerning creators on the TikTok platform, and none of those requests sought documents relating to Cooney. TikTok thus argues that the requests are now untimely and now unjustified by the claim that plaintiffs only recently learned of the events which gave rise to these requests. So in short, what TikTok...
Oh my god, I could never be a lawyer.
are basically arguing here is they have actually provided documentation surrounding Eugenia Cooney previously, and because of that, they should not have to produce any new documentation that's happened since February of 2025.
Right, but the issue with that then is that it leaves out a prime example of why it's dangerous for her to be profiting off of this.
And legally, they do have a bit of a point here. They went through discovery, and also there is the argument that they were making about the 2024 office party, whatever you want to call it, that Eugenia went to in New York City. But at the same time, I
could just imagine her in the office, just hey, around some cubicles. What's up?
don't think that's a fair argument. With what took place in May of 2025, that was a game-changing, serious situation that even I described in my video as rock bottom. So I think that actually the documentation that...
I mean, I think rock bottom would have been her fainting on stream, but...
describing and that they want from TikTok should absolutely be provided. And TikTok make the argument that if they do produce documents, it's just going to be reproduction of documents that they've already given them. But I don't necessarily agree. The situation in May of 2025 was very, very serious, and a large amount of people online were discussing it. So I have no doubts in my mind that there was some internal conversation at TikTok about what took place. So yeah.
I mean, a part of me would be like, yeah, common sense. But another part of me is like, thinking they really don't care as long as their money comes in. I mean, it took a court case to have to get them to actually look into it.
Yeah, I completely understand why these lawyers want these documents, and I think TikTok here are basically just chatting utter bollocks. To me, it just seems that TikTok are trying to use all of the legal jargon that they possibly can to prevent these documents from coming into discovery.
I will say their little script thing, whatever, that he just read off sounded way more calculated and just kind of, I don't want to say misleading, but like it had so many legal words that it feels almost like a misdirect,
Because they know that these documents could be absolutely damning in this case. The judge goes on to state, though, as noted, there are two events which occurred after the close of fact discovery which triggered this dispute. Cooney's May 2025 live stream during which she fell ill, and Cooney's visit to TikTok's offices in May 2025 for a creator
2012
event. Whilst these two events themselves may be within the scope of relevance for purposes of discovery, plaintiffs have not demonstrated how discovery beyond these two events requires supplements, nor have plaintiffs shown how these two events justify the broad scope of document requests now proposed, which, as quoted above, go far beyond these two events. Basically, what the judge is saying here is whilst the New York and livestream case are relevant to the conversation, they don't think they're relevant enough to basically warrant everything that the lawyers are demanding, which, by the way, I think, again, is complete bollocks. I think absolutely these cases are very, very relevant to why the document should be released. The judge goes on to state further, even if there was some scope of relevance beyond these two events for purposes of discovery, plaintiffs have not shown how the two broad categories of documents sought, each with at least 6 subparts, are proportional to the needs of the case. The multiple categories of documents now sought go far beyond these two events involving Cooney. It is clear plaintiffs are seeking to reopen broad areas of discovery into TikTok's handling of not just these two events, but anything to do with Cooney, and generally comprehensive inquiries into TikTok's internal and external communications, analysis, and documents regarding Cooney or complaints about Cooney. And yeah, what the judge is basically saying here is you do have two relevant cases, but it's not enough. It's too little for what you're asking for. Too little for too much, basically. The judge then goes on to state that more tellingly, the documents now are not limited as to time period, which facially demonstrates that 1, plaintiffs had every opportunity to seek most of these documents before the close of fact discovery and choose not to, and 2, the requests for documents now are not adequate linked to the events in May 2025, which initiated this dispute.
I'm gonna be so for real.
Except for
there's such a big question mark for me over this trial now. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
the sole subcategory, which specifically seeks documents relating to Cooney's visit to TikTok's offices in May of 2025, but even that request seeks documents concerning her visits to any other TikTok office without limitation as to time period. After taking the February 2025 disposition of the TikTok witness, plaintiffs could have sought every category of document now sought, except the request specifically directly to Cooney's visit to TikTok's offices in May of 2025. So basically the problem is that the lawyers were, I guess, a little bit cheeky. They were asking for a large amount of documentation that did not have a time period on them. So basically, they could request information about every single visit Eugenia had made to the TikTok HQ. And the judge is kind of arguing that, well, is it really relevant? Are the previous cases relevant? Surely you only need the documentation of the relevant things that you're talking about.
I think I agree with that.
The time period of May 2025. And whilst I can kind of get what the judge is saying here, and legally it makes sense, I do find it a little bit frustrating. I think all the documentation should be provided, and I think that, yes, these events, even in 2024 or 2023 that Eugenia may have attended, are incredibly important, as I think it does establish the relationship that TikTok had personally
Right.
with Eugenia Cooney. And I think that's important to look at because it will really show us that did maybe TikTok, to have a blind eye when it came to Eugenia. Did they let her get away with anything she wanted on live streams?
I think a little bit, yeah. Yeah. I mean, what? Jeffree Star is one of, like, TikTok's biggest people, or he was out for a moment. So, I don't know. Maybe she got in nice with him, buddied up with him, and got, a little bit of a good deal out of it.
And did they put viewers at risk by doing that? I'm not saying they did, but I'm saying I think that's why the documents are required in this situation. But the judge only continues when he states, these factors demonstrate that the requests for documents now are not proportional to the needs of the case. Further, the fact that plaintiffs served document requests which are specifically directed to creators yet admitted Cooney is additional support for the conclusion that the requests asserted now are not proportional to the needs of the case. Plaintiffs knew about Cooney during the fact discovery period and could have decided to include her in the creator-directed document requests.
Okay, I think that makes sense.
Again, though, I don't think this is fair. The situation that happened in
Tell me why, Nabby.
May was such a turning point. It was where pretty much Eugenia hit an all-time low, and I think that is incredibly necessary to talk about because she went to the TikTok HQ. They would have saw the state that she was in. They would have saw what was going on, and they didn't really do anything. And as the lawyers...
Well, listen, with TikTok, you have to be explicitly doing something wrong. It might be something small, but you have to explicitly do that thing for them to, take a report or anything seriously.
Argued Eugenia did have a bit of a shadow ban on TikTok, but then that was removed. And I think TikTok should give the answer to why they did that, whether you agree with them or not for removing it.
I'm telling you, I think it's Jeffree Star related. I think it's Jeffree.
I think we deserve the
all roads lead to Jeffree.
Right, and the lawyers deserve the right to know, and that's why I think the requests are actually adequate. The judge then goes on to state if documents about Cooney were deemed by plaintiffs not to be important enough to pursue in response to requests regarding creators during fact discovery, the events in May of 2025 do not materially alter the conclusion that such broadly sought documents about Cooney are proportional now, because there is no explanation as to how those events suddenly made those documents that much more important to the needs of the case now. This is a court case about the protection of children on the internet. This situation that took place in May of 2025 was very, very serious, and a large amount of children would have witnessed it on her live stream. But not just that.
She pulls a lot of people in a TikTok live too. I know when the girls go live over there, we see just like a couple hundred people max, but no, there really is like a crazy crowd over on TikTok. You guys, like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
This is a content creator that has publicly gone through a very, very terrible time, and social media companies have really done nothing to protect her or help her from what we have seen.
That is true. That is true. I think also for the well-being of Eugenia, maybe we should watch some recaps about the drama with her mama, because I think the mom is the root of all evil in this family. I mean, look at her brother, dude. I've never seen this in real life within a family. Like, both ends of the ED spectrum and both extremes. Like, something has to be happening in their household, dude, or happened when they were kids. I mean, I don't want to, speculate on that respectfully, but God, it's sad. It's a family doomed to just, like, destroy themselves.
That is why I think that actually what the judge is saying here is false. I think they don't necessarily need to go any further with their explanation because I think it stands out very obviously to why they want the documentation they are requesting. Honestly, I am so confused by this judge, because
No,
as we
same.
know, he does go on to grant
I'm confused by this whole fucking thing.
a few things to the lawyers against TikTok, but from what I'm seeing here, it very much does seem that he is in biased favor towards TikTok, in my opinion, and I don't really know why. Continuing though, it says, if the documents were not important enough to pursue during fact discovery, they are not important to require their wholesale production now, particularly in light of the lack of an adequate showing by plaintiffs. The mere fact that plaintiffs would like to have these documents now because of the recency of these events surrounding Cooney is simply not sufficient. Absolute bollocks. Plaintiffs do not respond to TikTok's assertion that plaintiffs are seeking reproduction of documents which TikTok has already produced concerning Cooney regarding restriction on her account. This factor demonstrates that the requests, as presented now, are not proportional to the needs of the case because they are apparently duplicative, I can't pronounce that word, seek to pose unnecessary and undue costs and burdens on TikTok.
What would unnecessary and undue costs and burdens be?
The judge here is basically stating, oh, we don't want to cause more costs for TikTok. They are
Go figure.
$1 billion company. This kind of
Holy shit. That was a high number.
It comes down to what I was mentioning earlier about these people not actually caring about anything other than money.
No, duh.
TikTok have billions upon billions of dollars. I'm sure it would not impact them to hire an investigator into going and finding some files. It would cost probably a few $1,000s maximum. I don't think that would actually. That's not even. That's like if you were walking along the road and you saw 1p or, I don't know, 50 cents, whatever an American does with money. You see it on the floor and you walk past it. That's basically what that is. Or a little bit of change falls out your pocket. That's honestly, it's not even comparable. It's actually not. There's no comparison to a $1 billion industry of how much $1,000 may cost. This is an absolute hilarious argument. The undue costs and burdens this would cost.
Yeah.
$1 billion corporation. And it all comes down to the argument that some of the documentation that will be provided if he did grant this request would be a duplicate, which in my opinion doesn't really mean much. How is this going to affect anything if there is new documentation that is provided on top of the duplicates? In my opinion, this just seems that TikTok are getting away with this very easily, and it's frustrating because I don't want regulation, but these companies are going to face it if these courts keep on favoring it in the way that they are currently doing, in this case, in my opinion. Accordingly, the court finds the plaintiff's request for the documents now as presented are not relevant and are not within the proper scope of proportionality for discovery. Plaintiffs have shown that at best, there may exist a modest scope of relevance and proportionality for documents relating to the two events which gave rise to the dispute. I feel like I'm being gaslit right now. However,
I don't know, honestly. I went to art school, man.
But as discussed, because there is only a duty to supplement a discovery response under Rule 26E, if the request called for the discovery new sought, accordingly, even if the two events that occurred in May of 2025 involving Cooney may be within some scope of reliance and proportionality, the scope of document requests that require supplementation is limited to those which would fairly call for the production of documents concerning those two May 2012 events. The
2012
court has reviewed the documents requests which plaintiff argue now call for the supplemental production of documents. The only document request which even addresses meetings is document request number 176, which seeks any meeting agendas, presentation, materials, handouts, background materials, or other documents concerning any actual or potential adverse impact on your platform, on the safety of children, teens, and youth users that were discussed, tested, and proposed or implemented by any of your units responsible in whole or part for the safety of your users. Again, I am just confused about how the events of May 2025 does not correlate with any of this. It continues though.
To be honest, I feel like we're aiming at the wrong thing with it. Why? I understand Eugenia's thing is important and it can be wrapped into the bubble of everything, but there's like, I don't know. I feel there's more important things, no? Than to have Eugenia be like the forefront, the head figure of this lawsuit.
This document request does not
Or lead example, I should say.
seek all documents surrounding any meeting, of course. Based on the party's submissions, it is not known, but at least possible, that Cooney's visit to TikTok's offices in May 2025 could have included any meeting agendas or other documents concerning any actual or potential adverse impact that TikTok may have on user safety, and it appears equally unknown whether any such materials were discussed, tested, proposed, or implemented by the persons working on user safety issues for TikTok. So basically, the judge is saying that these documents may not actually exist at all, and pretty much it would be a bit of a waste of time to go through the discovery of finding out if these documents exist. And I disagree with this again. I feel like this shouldn't be a race to the finish line. This is a court case. The whole thing here should be a race to justice, not a race to finish this quickly. So I don't really get why we're trying to just wipe past this immediately. I think everything in this case should be explored and looked into, even if it does take a long period of time. With regard to Cooney's May 2025
I think there's also a generational thing going on here. I don't know how old this judge is, but I don't know as though they're too savvy with what like actually is at the root of all this and how things can be technically the same but also very different in like a new context.
Stream, none of the document requests listed by TikTok call for anything directed to a creator's live stream. Document request number 175 seeks all documents concerning any actual or proposed analysis by TikToks concerning the topics of problematic use or safety of users on youth platform. Based on the submission of the parties, it is unknown, but at least conceivable, that TikTok may have documents concerning analyses of whether Cooney's live stream in May 2025 on TikTok was problematic or impacted youth users' safety. Now, this starts to go into some of the requests that the judge did grant, because yeah, the judge can't just deny every single request, mainly down to the fact that, well, the lawyers have a very valid argument. A very serious event took place in May of 2025. There was also an event which Eugenia Cooney went to at the exact same period of time at TikTok HQ, and yes, we can't look past that, and it is one of those serious things that the court has to take a look at, because it could potentially alter this case massively. And it would be very, very insane if they didn't at least slightly look into it, which, as you're going to discover, they do. But I am still a little bit confused. Document request number 178 seeks all communications by or with TikTok concerning investigations, lawsuit, media inquiries, or government inquiries related to the safety of children, teens, and youth who used your platform. Further, document request number 185 seeks documents reflecting communications with your employees, contractors, or vendors regarding when, whether, and how they should discuss the topic of whether use of TikTok is associated with adverse effects on user safety, including problematic use. The party's briefing is cited to the media coverage of Cooney's falling ill during a 2025 live stream on TikTok. There is thus a basis to conclude that TikTok received media inquiries, if not other investigations or government inquiries.
Honestly, I believe that. I'm sure they did. Because that was such a massive thing when it happened. So many different people were talking about it. It was coming across my TikTok feed, which, like, I never get Eugenia shit.
Related to user safety based on or stemming from Cooney's May 2025 livestream event. Similarly, there is a basis to conclude that TikTok sent communications to employees and contractors/vendors such as a PR relations firm on when, whether, or how to discuss whether Cooney's May 2025 livestream event was problematic and whether
so like it's a cover-up.
That use
the plot thickens
is associated with any adverse effects on user safety. Finally, we're getting to the end of this. Document request number 187 seeks all documents received by TikTok regarding any adverse effect on the safety of a child, teen, or youth user of TikTok and TikTok's response. Based on the submissions of the parties, it is unknown but at least conceivable that TikTok may have received user complaints in response to Cooney's TikTok livestream.
They 1000% did.
May 2025 with regard to an adverse, how many times are you going to say this word, adverse effect on youth users' safety. In light of the above analysis on the proper scope of the relevance and proportionality, and further in light of the analysis on which, if any, of the identified documents requests seek documents relating to the two events in May 2025 involving Cooney, the court concludes as follows. Good God almighty, that was a lot. A lot of reading. Please like the video, please.
Mind you, this isn't the only part. There is a part 2. We'll see. We'll see how this one does.
Support me because my voice hurts. I've read so many words in this video, more words than usual. Let's get into the ordering now. Let's get into what the judge ordered of TikTok. Finally. So yes, TikTok is ordered to perform a reasonable search for and make inquiry for documents from a reasonable number of custodians who either were directly involved in Cooney's visit to TikTok's New York offices in May 2025 or were directly involved in any user safety, media inquiry, or user complaint issues concerning Cooney's May 2025 TikTok events. The court orders TikTok to include among those custodians the TikTok witness who was deposed in February 2025. So basically, the judge has taken a bit of a balanced approach to his ruling here. Personally, I think it does favor TikTok quite a bit here, but they do still have to provide some documentation related to those specific events in May of 2025. But what they don't have to provide is pretty much everything else. Now, I do think...
Can I be honest? I think the meeting and what happened there would be more important than the actual live stream itself.
In the eyes of the law, maybe the lawyers were being a little bit cheeky by asking for pretty much everything, completely reopening discovery and going through everything related.
Well, maybe they're wanting to do that because of the Discord stuff. Maybe that's in part 2 of the video. I know there's something with Discord.
To Eugenia, considering they've already gone through some documentation related to Eugenia. I wasn't really expecting that, but I do think they did have a good case to ask for it. But unfortunately, I think when you're a billion-dollar corporation like TikTok, that's probably not going to fly in a court case. But yeah, TikTok now have to have the production of such documents completed by December 2nd, 2025. But a big important thing
Okay, did they do it?
to note here as well is the judge denied a deposition of Eugenia Cooney herself, which basically would have been Eugenia would have now been directly involved in this court case and would have spoken at the case and given her opinions and experiences on everything.
Bruh. Could you imagine what the courtroom, sketch artist would draw for Eugenia? Obviously, it's not like a caricature, but I just can't even fathom.
And overall, I think that is a major loss for the lawyers in this situation arguing against TikTok. I think if Eugenia came to this court case, if she had to speak up, provide evidence and her experience, that absolutely would change this story massively. It would have probably brought a lot of more eyes onto the story, and it probably would have increased the likelihood of those lawyers winning their case against these social media companies.
Really? You think so?
But yeah, that pretty much is the ending of this lawsuit. But that doesn't mean this story is over. If anything, this is just the beginning. This is an MDL going on from 2022 with over 400 lawsuits involved. But I think the biggest story here is now they are paying attention to influencer stories. They are looking into influencers and how they have been negatively impacted by social media and how that has directly impacted their own viewers, such as Eugenia Cooney. And it really does make me wonder who is next. I've mentioned other influencers throughout this video who are pretty similar in terms of Eugenia and, how we look at them and realize they're not doing good on social media, but they're allowed to continue anyway, and it can lead to some very serious events that take...
Oh, sounds like someone else that we do know.
...place on live stream and on videos, and it makes me wonder who's the next person that's going to be spoken about, because...
Well, I mean, hey, I think Amber's more of a case for it.
There are plenty of examples out there, and I really would not be surprised.
iNabber talks about Amber too. He's got videos on her, so definitely check him out for that. But he covers all sorts of people.
If these lawyers use other individuals' as experiences as well, not just Eugenia's. Overall, I do think they have actually provided very valid arguments about Eugenia.
Imagine if they brought Eugenia and Amber into a courtroom. Ugh.
Cooney specifically. I think you are an absolute fool if you ignore all of the issues that have been brought up to do with Eugenia over the years, and I do understand why she is being used as a point of contention in this case. And despite my arm's length contention from social media regulation, I do think that these billion-dollar corporations do need to do more. And don't get me wrong,
No, I agree.
I'm not on the side of Google, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. I'm not on the side of them. I'm more just on the side of people like me and you being able to say and spread news and information and vital facts out there. And I don't want governments having control over that. And I think that's a pretty understandable case to be at. But unfortunately, as I've said multiple times throughout this video, this whole situation, this case, will eventually change social media if they win the case. Because with how things are in the world...
To be honest, I'm not sure, though. I'm really not. I feel like it's going to maybe come down to freedom of speech. I don't know, though.
Right now, I would not be surprised if this case is cited in many legal debacles that are trying to push certain online safety acts in perhaps even your country that are being pushed under the guise of protecting children, but the reality is it gives a lot of power to the governments.
Right. I think if there is going to be regulation, it should be managed by the companies themselves and just kind of overseen at a minimal government level. Like, just a rough check-in, like, hey, how's everything going?
On the side of the apps, I'm not on the side of the government. I'm more just trying to be skeptical here. I think you're a bit of a fool if you be like, oh, yes, government regulation, let me eat some of that up. But I also think you're a fool if you think, oh, Twitter is my best friend. TikTok is my best friend.
Oh, very that.
I love everything they do. Feed me more addictive algorithms. Be skeptical. I'm not saying play a middle ground here, by the way. I'm just saying be skeptical because these companies are vicious. They are vicious, and I think more needs to be done about them. And I am actually glad that they are being sued because hopefully it does push them into actually regulating their own platform more themselves. See.
Right, and that's what it's done. It's what it's done. I mean, YouTube, I didn't know YouTube was involved in it as well, but makes sense.
To conclude the whole lawsuit stuff, I'm incredibly cautious. I'm interested to see where it goes, and I want this video to be a bit of a talking piece surrounding the moral and ethical dilemmas with what these lawsuits can bring. Now, in regards to Eugenia Cooney, she has been silent on social media for months now. There have been a lack of live streams, videos, and there have been so many rumors going around about her that I don't want to speculate on, but I do think this court case is an indictment on her social media career.
Oh, 1,000%.
And where it has led her to. I've been very critical of Eugenia in the past, but I absolutely...
It's either she's going to have to force herself into actual recovery to maintain the platform or just walk away. I mean, she's made a lot of money. She can just walk away if she wanted to.
Want her to get help, and I know people do think she's past a point of no return, but I would like to think that maybe she could come back from all of this. Maybe she could see this court case and how they are using her experience to show how she could be inadvertently harming individuals out there, and maybe she will learn from that. I know some people will scoff at that. I know some people will laugh at that. Maybe I'm just being an optimist for once, which is very funny considering how negative I've been in this video. But alas, yeah, I want the best for everyone. Well, there's some people I don't want the best for, but Eugenia, I don't want this to be her reality, obviously. I want her to be happy, but it's obviously not black and white. There are so many nuances in this conversation, and yeah, this is just another chapter in the story of Eugenia Cooney, and it's insane to see where we're at. But with that, I guess I'll end the video there. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you agree with what I've had to say about regulation, these types of lawsuits, and Eugenia's involvement? Let me know. I genuinely want to know what you guys think. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. It'll be probably a little less political and legal related, but who knows? Maybe maybe it won't be. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Peace.
Alrighty, you guys. I know, that was a lot. My brain feels heavy. I I see the argument and I hear it, but I'm again like maybe not afraid, speculative, definitely, of allowing the government control. I think if there is going to be a conversation on this leading forward, then that definitely needs to be specified as well. Like, exactly what is the role that the government has in this situation? Like, are they just here to, like, enforce when people have a problem with something? Or is it they are going to be now the overwatchers? And I definitely don't want that. It's just, it's a slippery slope thing, you know? And once you give up some kind of, like, civil liberties, it's like when you let the pigeon, whatever. If you say yes to a pigeon, he's going to drive the bus. Like... that kind of thing. I just don't see government control being the answer to it. Maybe more so just like government reinforcement, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I know that there's more. I know there's a lot more to this story. So we're going to keep up with it because there is a part 2, and for all we know, there might be more. I haven't done a full, like, deep dive in to see. So we will continue. We'll see how this one does and how it fares. But thank you so much, you guys. Hope everyone's having a beautiful and wonderful Wednesday once again. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, like and subscribe. And yeah, I think we might just keep wrapping the big cherries in with like whatever log cow updates there are. Just like one video. I don't see the need for it to be multiple, but who knows? There might be some days where I just don't feel like it, and we just do the big cherry. Keeping up with Flobby. I want to get into some more Rosie stuff. It's just her videos are so damn long. But we will. Thank you so much, you guys. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their evening, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.